ladies and gentlemen, we now know why Justin Trudeau shut down those parliamentary investigations yesterday. We have the documents right here. Let me start with an email from Michelle Kovacevic, one of the top Finance Canada officials. She, to start off with, says the Canada Student Service Grant is, quote, a bit of a shit show. And I'm quoting, excuse the language, but it's right there in the bureaucratic document. That's not how bureaucrats normally communicate in their official emails and memos back and forth. But apparently, this highly respected public servant felt it was an appropriate characterization. That was April 20th, exactly when the Kielburgers were in the process of negotiating to get this $500 million program set up. The same public servant writes another email to one of her colleagues in which she says that we is connecting with my minister's office. They are all besties. Besties. The finance minister's office is besties with the we organization that they're attempting to give $500 million.
Just incredible. That's Pierre Poilievre, the man who I wish was running for the leadership of the Conservative Party. The only Conservative MP I can think of who has distinguished himself in the public sphere in the last 6 months. Can you name me another Conservative MP or senator who has done anything of note, fighting against this government in anything important? I cannot. Doing another outstanding job. He was effective when there was a grilling of Justin Trudeau and Katie Telford, a very brief grilling a few weeks ago. But as Pierre Poilievre points out, all those investigations, all those parliamentary committees, and remember, in a minority government, the opposition actually has a majority of seats on these committees, so they can hold hearings and call witnesses that the Liberals can no longer block. Well, guess what? Justin Trudeau has prorogued Parliament and dissolved all those committees. They cannot work. They do not have the power to subpoena or summon people. Justin Trudeau, with the snap of his fingers, destroys any investigations into him. Joining us now via Skype to talk about this is our friend from True North. His name is Andrew Lawton, and here he is. Andrew, great to see you again.
Hey, likewise. Thanks for having me on.
It's my pleasure. I have in front of me a number of other emails, LinkedIn messages, little hellos amongst bureaucrats and between politicians and we. Boy, they sure were chummy. You heard, Pierre Poilievre quoting one of them saying that the Kielburgers were besties with Bill Morneau. They were all part of the same family, really, political family, cultural family, and they sure treated each other that way lavishly, didn't they?
Yeah, and there was another email directly from Craig Kielburger to Bill Morneau, not dear Minister, hello Minister Morneau, just hi Bill.
Yeah.
And that is not something you do when you're talking to a minister unless you have a really familial or personal or a more than collegial relationship. So I think the besties description is probably a pretty fair one here.
Yeah. I have in my hands a note sent from Craig Kielburger to Ben Chin, the former left-wing broadcaster who's now a senior advisor to Trudeau, and Kielburger said, "Hello, Ben. Thank you for your kindness in helping shape our latest program with the government. Warmly, Craig." And Chin responds, "Great to hear from you, Craig. Let's get our young working." I mean, these, Craig, Ben, besties. I mean, these were friends. And of course, listen, Kielburger gave Bill Morneau, who's a gazillionaire, gave him a $41,000 vacation for free. I can't even imagine what a $41,000 vacation is like, but it's enough to leave a memory on a finance minister who says, oh yeah, how many hundreds of millions do you want steered your way? Yeah, we're besties. This is the Lebranos as we always feared it would be.
Yeah, and one of the things that really jumps out here is that it completely undercuts and undermines what the Liberal Trudeau-Morneau narrative has been, which is that, the public service was the only one involved in this and the government only just stepped in at the very 11th hour, and Justin Trudeau actually tried to slow things down. He didn't just accept the recommendation. He actually said, I need to see more of this. And when you look through these documents, and I admit I haven't gone through all 5,000 pages just yet, but when you look look through the documents, Ezra, the one thing that becomes apparent is that there was never a point in which this program and we and government ministers, Trudeau ministers, were not all involved in the discussion.
Yeah. You know, one of the things that comes out, I mean, Craig Kielburger and his brother, they're very much creatures of Toronto and Ontario and that circle, but they're really nowhere in French Quebec. They're not bilingual. The organization is not bilingual. It's never been a thing. I think that's important for two reasons. First of all, it's a reason why the Bloc Québécois is happy to stick the knives in. When it was SNC Lavalin, well, that was a Quebec company, pride of Quebec.
Yeah, Quebec jobs are in a different class in Canadian politics.
Well, yeah, and, you know, it really is a flagship Quebec company, SNC Lavalin. I do not excuse or tolerate their corruption, but it's the leading engineering firm that's really Quebec built. I know why the Bloc would be defensive of them, even though they're corrupt. They don't even, you know, we is the word yes, and for oui, mais oui, monsieur. They don't know what this we charity is all about in Quebec. It's just a bunch of Anglo, Toronto, I'll scratch your back if you scratch mine. So that's why the Bloc is sticking the daggers in. But there's one more thing here. It goes to the point, why would the government pretend that an Anglo-only celebrity charity for basically political insiders, why would anyone think they could implement this national program in both official languages in all 10 provinces and 3 territories? And that's an issue that comes out in some of these internal memos. People in government saying, hey, how come everything's only in English? How come the website's only in English? Have you forgotten that there's a world outside of Toronto? And I think they did forget.
Yes, and in one of them, there's actually an email where someone in the civil service at some point is trying to say that they're not actually convinced that we does have the capacity to deal with this. So this idea that it was a sure thing that we could be handed the keys to this national program and the millions and millions and hundreds of millions of dollars that went along with it, which has always been what Trudeau has said about this, isn't actually aligning with what people in the government were actually saying about it as this was working its way through the channels. However improperly that process might have been manipulated.
That's an excerpt from my daily show, The Ezra Levant Show. Every day I do a monologue on the news of the day, then I interview an interesting guest, and then I read my hate mail. You gotta subscribe. Go to rebelnews.com.